Packers 29, Lions 22. Remember, this was a touchdown or so spread for the Lions.
The other way, yeah.
Yeah, for the Lions. The other two favorites covered, but the Packers, man, played a great game. In particular, Jordan Love, another week where he's playing his best ball, and not just his best game, Jordan Love, but just like he was feeling it, man. He was on fire when they needed him in structure, outside of structure. Jordan Love playing a great game on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and the accuracy. Like, the one thing that Jordan Love has had a problem with all season long is basic ball location. I mean, he was absolutely on the money in this game. Forget, like, the completion rate stuff. I mean, 69% essentially completion rate, 82% adjusted completion rate. But, like, the ball location on some of these passes was insane. And he was getting extra yards after the catch because he put the ball exactly where he needed it to be. It just seemed like all the way through the game, like, this was the ceiling of Jordan Love. This is what he can be in the NFL if you take away all of his flaws. So between that side of the ball, that was happening. Jordan Love was just having the game of his life against a good Detroit Lions defense. And then the other side of the ball, like, Green Bay's pass rush was annihilating one of the better offensive lines in the NFL and just putting Jared Goff under constant pressure. I mean, this game made no sense. Neither of these things were supposed to happen.
Rashawn Gary with an incredible game, 3 sacks, I think. I have no plays on. But a 90-plus pass rush grade. Devontae Wyatt had a really good game. Kenny Clark had a huge game for Green Bay. I mean, I came away watching that game thinking, okay, this Packers team can compete with anybody.
Yeah.
Because they just took out one of the best teams in the NFC, the Lions. If Jordan Love stays sharp, you have the Christian Watson post-Thanksgiving breakout here that you highlighted to me. The man can only play Thanksgiving or later, much like last year where he became an elite deep threat and touchdown creator. So you've got the receivers who are young and inexperienced and never in the right spot and dropping key passes. They're playing well. Love's playing well. The defense is flying around making plays, rushing the passer. This was a complete game by the Packers, the best game that they've played all year, and I came away thinking, okay, they've got the Chiefs next week on Sunday Night Football. Like, if they play like that again, they could pull the upset against Kansas City. They can win some games here down the stretch.
And they're only a game back from Minnesota. I mean, we were talking up last week before they dropped a game. The Vikings could upset Detroit, right? They were only a game back. They got 2 games against the Lions. Maybe the Vikings could actually win that division. I mean, Green Bay is only a game behind Minnesota in this chaotic NFC playoff picture. We kind of wrote them off earlier because they were so bad at the start of the season and making mistakes, and every game kind of looked the same. But if they play like that, Green Bay could make the playoffs. And with such a young group of playmakers, like, that group could get significantly better over the course of the year, and it makes sense, as opposed to, why is this team playing better in the second half than the first half?
I'm going to do a lot of standings recapping because it's that time of year, Sam. We're past Thanksgiving. The Packers, as of right now, 5-6, tied with the Rams and the Saints record-wise, but they have the tiebreaker over both teams. They're the number 8 seed in the NFC, so they're a game behind Minnesota in that division, but also a game behind Seattle. We'll talk about Seattle here in a minute, but Seattle's next 3 games we talked about, they're going to be touchdown underdogs probably as they play Dallas and the Niners again, and I think Philly. So Seattle is facing a tough stretch. Again, I don't know if the Packers can bottle this up and bring it every single week, but if they can, they're making they're making a run here down the stretch. For Detroit, another just a weird game in their season, right, where they just don't show up relative to what they've done. Jared Goff was our highest graded quarterback as of 2 weeks ago. And then the turnovers just hit against the Bears.
Back-to-back stinkers.
Yeah, back-to-back. No, against the Bears, tons of turnovers. He had the 3 interceptions, but they came back in the fourth quarter. But, he kept putting the ball on the turf again in this one with the Packers. That's one thing they have to iron out here with the extra rest.
Yeah, the 2 worst games of his season so far, back-to-back 3 turnover-worthy played games. He hadn't had a game with more than 2 before that. Just a nightmare game for him. And a lot of that in this game was pressure. I mean, the amount of pressure that Green Bay was able to get in this game was kind of crazy. In particular, like, Taylor Decker was just getting his ass handed to him. repeatedly by Rashawn
by
Gary.
Rashawn Gary. I had mentioned Rashawn Gary against Palazzolo.
52% of the time Goff was under pressure in this game.
Yeah, that was insane. How good the Packers pass rush was. So again, so impressed with what Green Bay did. 29-22 win. They held it off at the end. Jordan Love played really well. Christian Watson, who I mentioned, he had a 53-yarder in there, 5 catches for 94 yards and a score. So yeah, just a really good all-around game from Green Bay, despite all their injuries. Right, they had half their team on the injury report. That's, I was hedging in the preview. I'm like, it doesn't look good on paper that Green Bay will have nobody available to play, but you just never know. Sometimes teams rally behind all of their injured players, and the Packers absolutely did.
Yeah, Decker actually ends up with a grade that wasn't terrible. Got beaten badly a couple of times. Palazzolo got beaten a few times. The real catastrophes happened on the interior, though. The trio of interior offensive linemen, Graham Glasgow, Swordstill, those guys gave up a collection between 3 of them because there was an injury of, 16, 17, 18 total pressures among 3 players. That's not good.
Yeah, tough to predict, man, that the Lions' offensive line is going to look that bad. But again, kudos, give them their credit, the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, this was a great game. Nobody necessarily saw it coming, but it changes their season all of a sudden. They went from, a season that was looking horrific. They lost a bunch on the bounce. What was that? 4 losses in the middle, 1 to the Lions, then the Raiders, Broncos, Vikings, and then now they've won 3 of the last 4, the last 2 of which have been pretty impressive.
All right, Lions go play the Saints next week in Nolans, and as I mentioned, the Packers on Sunday Night Football against the Chiefs. We'll see if they can replicate that outing.